He's marking it out, brings it back, runs it through and cuts it.
Like that's just a small cut, which really only needs one hit, or two hits, or one hit.
Wow.
Or a half tile. To cut a neat, really neat cut, you got to put a lot more taps on it. But the taps have got to be lighter and more closer together. Any little bumps can be trimmed up to make it really straight. Another terracotta tile. And a quick trim up. A bigger hip cut. Yeah. Ooh, can't get too much straighter than that though, could you?
Show us against your top.
Lovely. Terracotta tile. They also can be scribed for either hip cut or valley cut. Your hips aren't seen, so you don't really need to do it with a hip. But say a valley cut. A couple of quick scribes. Your taps closer together and not very hard. And anything like that, you just a quick nip off. And you get a fairly straight cut. Can be scribed. Your cuts close together. And it just broke in a straight line. Your piece could be used for a small cut on your hip, you know, later on when you cut your hips in. I'll cut a valley cut. You can use a scriber. This scriber just gives you a pretty much already cut in the tile. Your taps closer together. And something like that, you just give it a quick trim up. A perfect straight line. Being scribed first, that would nearly match anything cut with a grinder. In Australia, that's called a water course and a cover flange. We avoid hitting that with the cutter. We stick to the main body of the tile and it should break perfectly. And remember to avoid under ribs under the tile. It's probably one of our hardest tiles to cut. It's 35mm in some spots in thickness, but it's also one of our strongest tiles. I did have to put a lot more taps into that and probably a bit more pressure, but still you can see the thickness there it's a very thick tile. Hip cut. Now this is the finishing side of the hip cut. A few taps in the thick part of the tile, and shorter sharp ones in between the other ribs. And if you get something like that, just a quick trim up brings it back to perfect. This is one of our thickest tiles and our strongest tiles. I'll do a waller cut or a gable cut. A bit more pressure because of the thickness of the tile, and your taps closer together, and cut a perfect line. You can cut a lot quicker once you get the feel of the tile, and it was 5 taps, and that's, as I said, this is the strongest tile we've got.
As a result of that, you might have somebody there, or we've got somebody.
I couldn't imagine cutting the whole roof in with a grinder. I really couldn't imagine it. It'd be terrible.
Time consuming.
Time consuming. Dust would be incredible. I'm quite surprised the roofs aren't ruined with dust.
And the dust clings on, doesn't it?
Yeah, like a dewy morning or a sprinkle of rain. You'll have dots all over you. Get into the tile, impregnate it, and you can't get it off. Wet mornings we can't grind, well this morning I couldn't grind my valleys until 11 o'clock.
Right.
Or sometimes I've got a cutter on one end of the roof and a cutter on the other end, and I'll cut up as far as I can, and I'll go to the finishing end of the roof and I'll cut up there, and I'll go backwards, finish cutting that.
Are you carrying a cutter, or are you saying?
I'll have 2 on the roof, one at either end. Yeah.
You would be 4 times as productive with the cutter as somebody with
the grinder.
So
well, it's a hard job. You've got to do it the easiest way possible. So I would be 4 times quicker cutting a roof in with one of these than with a grinding wheel, a grinder, with no silica dust at all. You get a guy to hold it in their hand.
That's one of the heavy ones.
Yeah, that is really heavy. That's where they struggle. If their wrists aren't strong, they've got to be flopping around all over the place.
What do you do though before your wrists become strong enough to do that?
You get yelled at. No, it's when cutting a roof tile, it can get heavy when you're holding it one-handed, and you could sway around getting it into the cutter. But once the tile cutter grabs, as you can see, the tile cutter can absorb all the pressure, and your wrist doesn't have to take the pressure. You let the tile cutter do the pressure. You just got to move the tile. And their wrist might wobble around until they get a grab on it. So once you've got the grab in there, your pressure's out of your wrist, the pressure's in there. but you still have to hold it steady.
That's
My theory is get the job done and you can go home.